The main concept you need to know is a genotype. You probably don't know what a genotype is because in the lab reports, all you hear about are alleles. But the key concept is a genotype. If there's a chromosome, there are 23 pairs of those. At some location, a father and a mother have a pair of alleles, a pair of variants or types in these DNA tests. And the reason they have pairs is each parent passes one on to their child, and then their child gets a pair. So since you keep getting one from each of your parents, you always have a pair. And that's the way it's been for hundreds of millions of years. Okay, the way, without going into detail, the way this pair of alleles, your genotype at some genetic location, manifests itself is a pair of peaks based on the size of those alleles. The 7 is longer than a 6. It's a bigger number that corresponds to something bigger. So you get a signal of two things. With a mixture, you get more than 2 peaks. With handguns, as I said, you get 4, 5, 6 people. Even with more mundane crime, you'll get 3 or 4 people regularly. And what you now have in the data, suppose there's a lot of the blue person and a little bit of the orange person. Then the data looks like there's a lot in blue and a little bit in orange. That is, the heights of the peaks. You can tell by looking at the picture that one person is a 6-7, the blue, and another person is an 8-9. It's obvious, right? Isn't that sort of obvious? Okay. But that's not what crime labs do. Crime labs draw a threshold. They slice through this. If anything underneath is discarded, so if they drew a higher threshold, you'd only see the 6 and 7. If they drew a lower threshold, maybe you'd keep the all 4 of these alleles. But then it's like there was no quantitative data at all. It's all the same. And any combination or pairing of those leads to somebody being included. Because there's no peak height. It's a list. 6, 7, 8, and 9. That's your list. Is somebody with a 6 and 7 on the list? Yes. They're included in this quantitation-free data. Again, no highs and lows. Just all the same. That's what the threshold did. That's what the threshold did. It got rid of everything. Why is that a problem? Well, there are actually 10 different pairings of those 4 alleles, and only 2 of them, 6, 7, and 8, 9, are really in there. The other 8 possibilities can't exist. Why? Because a guy with a 7 and an 8 doesn't have the 2 tall peaks of a 6, 7, or the 2 short peaks or an 8, 9. So you can get false conclusions. And in fact, the numbers don't even make any sense because you're looking at all these events that can't be true that are included in the statistics. So the results are, if you make your thresholds high enough, you'll throw out the baby with the bathwater. Like, worst case, that's your client, that's somebody else, thresholds high, and nobody's seeing the perpetrator. That's kind of a shame. Or you can get false conclusions. And overall, looking at the data all together, not using quantitative highs and lows is generally a bad idea. I mean, you know that your bank account is not as big as Bill Gates's, or I guess Donald Trump is the billionaire du jour, but you both have, we hope, like balances over $350, right? Maybe not public defenders here. But for many of you, it is. And if you just drew a threshold and said anybody with a bank balance over $350 is rich and everybody underneath is not, that's not very realistic. And there's nothing in science, technology, anything where quantitative data is thrown out, except in forensics. So that's what a threshold is. Thank you.